to show everybody. I got the new Galaxy Nexus phone. They were going to call it the Nexus Prime, and they decided to ditch the Prime. I'm going to demo this thing live on the air right now. If people have been following the show, they know I am not a big fan of Android. I've said it over the last couple of months. Eric, are you a fan of Android?
You've been waiting for this phone for a while.
I have. Eric, do you like Android?
I like Android in concept, and I'm very excited about a lot of these 4.0 features that I've read about and seen videos of. I don't have an Android phone myself because I'm not that big of a mobile phone and app user, quite frankly, so the iPhone 4 is just fine for me. But I can't wait to hear what you think about this one.
Let me switch the camera. Let me just do a little demo for everybody. So I got a camera here set up. This is running Ice Cream Sandwich, so I'm going to have to maneuver this, which is the latest version of Android. As you can see, it's a little different looking now with the app area where you have all these different apps. It rather than going up and down, it's going side to side, which I guess is what everybody's doing now. It actually was a little strange for me to use because I was expecting it to go up and down. Immediately, I mean, this device is phenomenal. It's really fast of a device. The display is beautiful. I mean, it's a 720p display on this little thing. I mean, the resolution is extremely high. And they've revamped it, and they've kind of streamlined the entire OS, and that has been a problem with Android over the last couple of years, where certain things seem to fit the Android model, then all of a sudden it just stops and it's underdeveloped in some areas. One part that I really think they did a great job is the contacts list. I'm going to go back here. If I could go back into contacts.
Oh, that's nice. It's almost more like Windows Phone 7 with the big photos.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They have made this really Windows Phone 7-ish, and I'll give you an example. Let me find someone that does not care to have their information put out. So let me find...
that reeks of a bad product name when the adjectival form is Windows Phone 7-ish.
Yeah, Windows Phone 7. So here's someone that works for me. So here's Chauncey's information. You can see all the contact info. Then when you swipe to the side in this tile-like area, you have his Twitter feed or his Google Plus feed. Then when you have your favorites are very tiles-like, and it's pretty much very Windows Phone-ish. And I guess, and the colors are kind of Windows Phone-y, right, with the blue. So
yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a mere coincidence or they are influenced. The phone is actually much better looking now with the buttons.
Can you scale down those icons when it's in a grid form like that?
Which one are you talking about?
Just one size.
Is it like a list view?
Are you talking about this?
Yeah.
These are my favorites.
Screen.
No, well, these are my favorites. Yeah, I have the list view right here. So this is my list view right here.
So I've got to ask you, what do you think about the pin tile display? Because I remember when this first was announced, everyone was saying, well, is it really going to be better than, or will it even be equivalent to Apple's Retina display? Because the dots of the pixels per inch are roughly equivalent to Apple's 300 something.
It is. It's. I mean, on paper, it's supposed to be very close. Comparing it to the Retina display, I still have to say the Retina display is a better looking display. But I'm also comparing it on a 3.9 inch, 3.7 inch display to a 4.6.5 inch display.
Right.
I don't know how it'll look on a larger scale for the Retina, but I have noticed that some things like the grays, certain grays, do not look good at all on this. You could actually see the lines in the pixels on the screen.
That's interesting because you know what the reason for that is, from what I've read, is that unlike the Apple Retina display, which is a full RGB 3 sub-pixels per pixel rather, this is a it's an AMOLED OLED, so it uses RGBW or something like that, RGBW or something, where instead of having as many red, green, and blue pixels equally, it has more, I think, greens than it has even some pure white. So is it brighter? How's the color? Like, what do you think?
It's extremely bright. Yeah, the color-wise, it's extremely vibrant. I'm really surprised for the color, how good it looks. The high-def display also, when you're viewing videos, looks phenomenal. A lot of people have complained online that saying that, well, I'm surprised that the display doesn't look as good, like looking up certain YouTube videos. But you have to realize you're not looking at a high-def video. A lot of people are looking at low-resolution videos. Look at a high-def video and then compare it. It looks phenomenal on a high-def video. Battery life. Go ahead.
I looked at it the other day in the store, and I wasn't extremely impressed. I think it's a great device, but I wasn't
It's a
off the
big
wall
device, though.
impressed.
If this device, and I'll tell you, I am not a big fan of the extremely large screen displays. I know that's become a trend recently, and everybody wants the 4.5, the 4.3-inch screens. 4.6 inches for a phone is a little too large. I mean, it doesn't feel big in your hand. I have to tell you, they've done a really good job at the curvature on this device and the way it feels when you're holding it, because it's fairly light.
Yeah, I would agree with
If
that.
it was just a little smaller, I think it would be a near perfect phone. I'm not talking about the operating system. I'm talking about hardware-wise. It would be near perfect if it was just a little smaller.
It's
Interesting.
funny though, because you're talking about the size of it, and when I was at the Verizon store, I was comparing it to some of the other Androids they had there, namely the Resound. And you know what? Overall, I didn't see it was really any bigger. I mean, the screen is probably bigger, but I don't think the entire form factor is any bigger than some of the Android devices that you see out there today, like the Resound.
The Resound looked a little smaller. I think it's a little...
Oh, not by much, though.
Not by much. No, I think they're all a little too big.
You're talking, centimeters at this point.
But I mean, when you compare it to something like this is my iPod Touch, and here's this.
Oh yeah, when you're comparing it to something that's a whole inch smaller.
I mean,
of course.
fits inside. I mean, that's how small this is. Camera-wise, that's another thing. I want to show the camera here. They've done a great job with the camera. It's a lot better to use. I mean, comparing it to all the other. I was in panorama. I was doing a whole thing here. There we go. So you could see. I'm gonna take a picture, and that's it. I mean, it's instant. I don't know if you could hear the shot. Let me see if I could do this. No, it's actually absolutely really quiet.
No, it is fast.
I mean,
when I was playing around with it at the store, I was just like, "Oh, I already took it."
Yeah, I mean, it's so fast. Again, it is not on par with the iPhone 4S because it does not have image stabilization like the iPhone 4S does, which really helps the camera out. Now, that was another thing. I just don't understand why they didn't implement it in this phone. Overall, it's a phenomenal phone, and I have to tell you, it's really. I've been really critical on Android, and I have to say they did a great job with this. Again, there's certain things that are still lacking, like the App Store is a mess still, in my opinion. Certain features. Well, I was telling you this morning, Sunkast, certain things that I was not really happy with. Battery life is not so great.
But it's no worse than the Thunderbolt.
The battery life, you mean?
Yeah.
No. Like, I'll give you an example. I just took this off from being fully charged, and I'm at 85%. I just took it off 23 minutes ago, so I've lost a quarter.
That's just something that you live with these bleeding edge devices nowadays.
Yeah.
Is that you can't really expect the greatest battery life ever, and we'll talk about that more. And I think in some of the other bits that we have.
Yeah. Also, I want to talk about the 4G a little bit. This is my first 4G phone. I did a bunch of speed tests throughout the entire day yesterday on 4G. I was getting, according to 4G, according to speedtest.com and on the 4G, and I tried different servers, I was getting over 20 megabits a second. Now, that's FiOS speeds. My upload speed was around 5 megabits a second. I don't know if that was a glitch in the system, because I know those speed tests, sometimes they act funny, but that seemed a little high for me. 20 megabits a second, guys? I mean, does anybody know if that makes any sense for 4G currently?
You're saying it's too high?
I'm saying it's way too high.
Well, the reason I've heard for that is that in the few markets that have had 4G coverage installed, people are getting much higher speeds than they will eventually get once more people are on the 4G network. It's just because they're the first ones there. There's no one else on the network, basically.
I mean, the first time I did, I got like 38 megabits a second, and that's my FiOS. That's what I have in the house.
And I wouldn't be surprised either if they are doing, some shaping, a little bit of trickery there to make sure that the people who do a speed test, as opposed to like a consistent large file download, get a better, more accurate, or rather, just higher number when they get that ping.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. They're kind of doing reverse what Time Warner and all the other guys are doing. Pretty much, I think Comcast drops you in the beginning, and then it raises it in the middle when these guys actually boost you, and then they drop you. So that's fascinating how they're doing that. But, I mean, it's a phenomenal, phenomenal phone. 5-megapixel camera could have been 802.11 N or what is it, N? I think it is N. Yeah, I think it is N.
It wasn't very specific. It just said 802.1x.
32 gigs of storage. It's a 1.2 gigahertz processor. It's a dual-core, 1280 by 720. It's a great phone. It's a great, great phone. Now, again, I've had this for only a full day, so it's too early for me to sit and say, wow, this is amazing. But so far, so good. And I
Have
think
you tried have you tried the face unlock feature?
I have, and it works really good.
Really?
I mean,
Have
it's
you tried it in the low light conditions?
I did
or-
actually. Yeah, I tried it. Well, I had my Christmas tree lit, and I didn't have anything else lit, and I tried it, and it worked really well.
Have you tried
Now,
it
have
with
you
a
tried-
photograph of yourself?
Go ahead.
No, I should though, shouldn't I?
Yeah, yeah.
I
'Cause
wonder
that's what
if
I've
it'll-
heard.
I wonder if it'll do it if I hold it up against the screen. I'll try that actually.
That's
What do
that's
you
what I
think
was
about
going to
the-
ask.
Yeah, I'll
So I-
give that a shot actually.
What do you make of the buttonless? The fact that there are no hard buttons; they're soft buttons.
This actually, you just reminded me what my complaint was. Now, because they're soft buttons, they're really close to the on-screen buttons, and I'll show you here.
And
if you
are
could
they
see-
actually like on screen, or are they permanently there, but in like their own little section?
I'll tell you right now, actually, I'm not too sure. I think they're permanently there. Nothing takes their spot, but
But when you turn off the screen, do the icons disappear?
yeah, they're gone.
Yes.
So I'll do it
Okay.
right now. So they're gone.
I'm actually a pretty big fan of those soft keys. I think it's really nice.
I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of it right now. So if I'm sending a text message, so let's
Because I think there's not a single hard button on the front. Is that right?
no hard buttons at all on the front. Only on the side, a volume button and a power button. But here's my gripe with this. So if I'm typing like this straightforward, I constantly hit those soft key buttons, and it throws me back to the main screen because when I'm typing fast, I keep my fingers just sliding, so they're really sensitive. That's my big problem with it. So if you can see here, I constantly hit this button here when I'm typing. And that's a problem. So I wonder if they'll be able to tone down the sensitivity for those soft key ones.
I don't see why they couldn't.
Yeah, so, but the browser's a lot better. Still not running Chrome, unfortunately, but it's a lot better than it was. But you are screwed if you try to go to my website with Android because we realize nothing works.
That's one of my complaints, I think, overall about Android is just, and it's not necessarily Google's fault. It's just that there's nothing out there. There's no companies out there supporting Android in some sort of live streaming fashion. I mean, we have Ustream, Justin TV, Stickam. We stream to all of those, yet you can't view any of those natively on an Android device as far
Unless
as I
you're
know.
installing Flash. Now, the other issue is that even if you are doing HTML5, because Blip supports HTML5 video on our website, it does not work with this.
No, it doesn't.
The HTML5 video is not working
I think
properly.
part of that, though, is just the way they have their HTML5 player coded, because there's so many different implementations and way you can design an HTML5
but YouTube didn't even work.
player.
YouTube didn't work.
Yeah.
Embedded
Really?
YouTube videos were not
doesn't-
working.
YouTube doesn't work on Google's own operating system?
From what I noticed from on our website only, I didn't check any other ones, but embedded YouTube videos implementing HTML5 do not work properly.
Wow, that's an
I mean,
oversight.
you can view the video, but trying to fast forward and rewind through the video doesn't work.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I like the phone. It's a great phone. Still, is it better than the iPhone? It's too early for me to tell.